Hey guys, Janet Card Master here. So I decided to do a deck profile with Boba Fett. I know this is probably an overplayed leader in the current meta for set one, and it's even postulated to be the best leader. So I wanted to go over the deck profile just to show you guys how to approach different matchups that I found in my experience to beat certain matchups. So yeah, let's go right into the deck profile, and I just want to show you guys what the deck can do against certain decks. And what do you want to mulligan for essentially so that you have a better matchup against certain colors or certain aspects so that you don't have, you don't like kind of misplay with the leader so that you don't really categorize Boba as a lower tier leader as a result. So let's go into the deck file. You guys probably already know what his skill does, but just for those who are watching and who are new to the game, Boba can exhaust himself whenever an enemy unit leaves play. Not sure what the ruling is with the leader, but if you clear any other units or even bounce another unit, I believe, using Waylay on your opponent's side, he can exhaust himself without making an action. So this is basically a trigger ability as opposed to an action ability where you can just rest it and then ready a resource. Really useful if you want to play your events that you can play on curve. And then the best part of it is that if you're on turn 5 and you deploy him as a unit, you can actually ready 2 more resources so that he can do more event tricks so that you can play. The ECL, I like ECL over the command, the other command, mainly because you could essentially disrupt a big unit. So the big unit, the idea is that your base is at 25 over the 30 because the big unit is supposed to do the ambush ability so that you can deter people from doing 5 damage to you. So it's kind of the same in some sense. But having the ambush ability is really nice because you can proc the ability of Super Laser Technician, being able to put him into your resource in active or ready, and that allows you to put Boba out on 5. Sorry, on your turn 4 essentially. Sorry, not 4, 3. So Boba can come out on your turn 3 because you start with 2 resources in the beginning of the game, and then on 3 you play Laser, and then on 4 you play Boba. So that's kind of the idea behind this. Deck profile. Let's go into the actual deck so that you guys can understand what I'm trying to do here. So Caffrey Smuggler and Greedo, and then the Viper Pro Droid. So the Viper Pro Droid, I think, is an amazing card in Villainy, especially if you're playing a deck that kind of like plays after your opponent. You kind of want to know what your opponent's up to, so that you can counterplay whatever they're trying to do. So if you don't know what your opponent's playing, a lot of people are still deck building in the set one meta. So because people are still deck building, you kind of don't have an idea what your opponent is on. So you don't know whether they're playing a mid-range deck or a control deck or an aggro deck. So Viper Probe Droid lets you kind of see what their curve is like for that particular game, so that you can kind of plan how to how to play with Boba. Boba's really great because he has the ability to be aggressive, mid-rangey, and then in some cases he can be a very good control leader. But he's not the best control leader because he doesn't go late. His Your only late game cards are going to be Vader and then another card that I play in this deck so that you could do well into the late game. So depending on what matchups you're playing, you want to behave accordingly as opposed to try to play the normal value trading game. So yeah. So anyways, so the Greedo is important because he's a 3 attack, but proccing his ability is not. It's kind of difficult to do because you don't know what the top of your deck is going to be. So having Greedo being able to randomly hit a 2-drop event card that's basically a non-unit means that you can deal with another unit. But mainly I use it for the stats of 3-1 on turn 1. And don't forget that he is also unique, so he won't be able to really utilize his. He won't be able. You won't be able to play 2 of them on a turn, on the same turn, so that you can be aggressive. And that's why Greedo is unique. The Crafty Smuggler is really good because even towards the late game or the mid game, they have to like deal with him. Otherwise, you can play cards like Surprise Attack on him to try to finish the game. There was because this game is relies on an action economy. Having 2 units in active or in ready, one in space and one in ground, means that if you use cards like if you have Surprise Attack in your hand to pair off with a unit on your board, Your opponent can't deal with both a shielded unit and as well as a air unit simultaneously, unless they just drew really well. So because of that, the action economy makes it so that you're up on one action, so that when you do play a surprise attack, you can actually finish them off faster. And then I already talked about the Viper Probe Droid. I think it's a really good card for the stats as well as a 3/2, so you're able to at least contest a lot of units that normally have high stats. This was before when I first started playing the game. I thought Viper Probe Droid wasn't necessary, and I decided to play the Cell Block Guard instead. But I realized the action economy of this game makes it so that you want to play a 2-drop as opposed to a 3-drop. So, anyways, the 3 drops you play, and you definitely want to mulligan for this card because it's a card that puts cards in. He puts himself as ready into your resource after he gets defeated, and it pairs off with the ECL sometimes. Even if you don't swing with him, or even if you don't use ECL on this guy, and you play him in exhaust on your turn 2, on your next turn, if you get him to be defeated by crashing into a unit, hopefully you can trade with it. If you can't, doesn't matter. That means Boba can come out the same turn because Boba now has the requirement of 5 resources on turn 3. So because on turn 3 you can deploy Boba with this card, I definitely recommend you play Super Laser Technician in a way that you could proc his deployability. The other 3 I play, of course, is Boba. Really high stats, really good stats all around. Being able to do 3 damage to a exhausted unit that didn't enter play this turn is kind of good. It's basically they made a 3 cost for a 6/5 essentially, with a strike verse ability essentially. So, but the strike verse only works if it's a unit that didn't enter play this turn. The 5s I play are going to be the Stallion. You have to play Stallion because your leader comes out so early. So basically, when you play the Boba out, you most likely will have the energy to play this guy. So on the next turn, the cool thing to pair off with this is to pair it off with the ECL. To pair off with the ECL with this, if you trigger his ability on the on attack ability, you can actually pump up your Boba to become a 6/9 on the turn he plays out. So that's a little combo you can do. You don't always have to use ECL on the Fett's Fire Spray as people like to use. ECL is very versatile. So because it's versatile, you can use it on this and then pump up your Boba leader. So it just depends on the situation. And the nice thing is, if you do complete an attack with the Boba that is a 6/9, and after you've already took out 2 units, you can restand 2 more. You can ready 2 more resources so that you can do even more tricks. So Boba is like literally the best mid-range leader in this game right now. I play the Bosch. Bosch kind of underperformed for me lately, but I do see the appeal of it because he does have the ability to inflict 2 damage to a unit, even in space as well. So yeah, so in case you don't see your Steadfast Battalion, Bosch is a really nice addition to that. It also has the ability to ambush as well, so you can ambush something. Sometimes I don't want to ambush because if I do ambush a ground unit with this, he has less health, so it's easier for him to be dealt with. But in the event that you suspect that your opponent can't deal with it because they tapped out or whatever, and then his health is lower, then it's good because now you can use an event card to basically use his ability for full value. So yeah, there's a Bosch's value there. And then the late drops for the ground units are going to be the 2 Vaders. I don't have 3 Vaders, so I settled to play with 2, and instead I played the 97th Legion. So the 97th Legion has an ability to be able to clear Vader or clear Luke Skywalker in the late game. But against blue, I typically try to go aggressive. So even though this guy can theoretically clear Luke Skywalker because of his 7th health is really high, and Vader cannot do that, and this card could. You can pair off the ECL with it and then clear Luke Skywalker. But for the majority of the part against blue, blue is typically designed to be pretty late game, especially against heroism blue. Heroism blue leaders typically have big units that they play on turn 7 and 6. So having 97 Legion with the ECL allows you to at least clear the unit on your turn 7, so that you can, if you don't have the initiative, of course, and they can just clear the Luke. But most time people play Luke after a unit gets destroyed in the phase. or defeated in a phase so that he can get his -6/-6 ability. So you're gonna have to play pretty weird or with the Luke with this one. But against like villainy, vigilance villainy, or blue villainy, whatever it is, you can technically use this on like most of the villainy cards and then deal with it well with it. But you don't have an issue with the villainy leaders. Krennic, Krennic does have the ability to play Count Dooku on, I believe it's a 7 drop as well. So Count Dooku will already defeat one of your units when he comes into play, anyways. So at best, he's this card is okay as a replacement until I get my third Vader. For the space units, I only play 9 like most of the list. The Fett Fire Spray, a lot of people don't remember that this has the ability to pay 2 resources to exhaust a non-unique unit. So that's really useful if you want to use an action economy to be able to thwart your opponent on the ground or in the space. So it just depends on where. That being, it's a very good stat as well to be able to ready itself and then being able to attack again to the resource. So the 5/6 stat's really nice because at best he's going to be able to clear a unit with the ECL, as you guys already know the ability to be able to ready itself after you use the ECL, and then to be able to use the ambush ability to attack something, and then ready itself again so that you can attack into the base. Because it is a space unit, and because there's not many space units around the 6 curve that are big, the Fett's Fire Spray can actually do a lot of damage. And then I've won many games because I paired this card off with Surprise Attack in this deck. The other space unit I play is Cartel Spacer. I made the mistake to play the other spaceship that if it attacks and you have a leader unit in play, it rests something. I figured if I just attack with it multiple times, I can just keep getting value out of it. The issue is that that's the stats of these spaceships are really like weak, and because of that, towards the late game, that other spaceship I mentioned actually has no value because it has to attack. Whereas this one does it on play. Right when it comes into play, assuming you have another cunning unit, you can rest or you can exhaust a unit anywhere that costs 4 or less. So that's really nice in the late game to stop like certain units in the against aggressive, especially. Against like aggro decks, this is a really good card, and especially since it's in space, you can deal with it. I definitely like this card. Having shielded space units, it means that your action economy is saved because since you're up 1 action in the by playing the spaceship because you have the shield unit, that means that you could essentially pair this off with the surprise attack and then win the game in the same manner. I think that's all of it for the units. So let's go into the events. So the events I play are 2 Whaley and 1 Asteroid Sanctuary. This used to be a shoot first, but I didn't want to use too many shoot first against a lot of different matchups. Namely against the mirror match, shoot first doesn't do anything against shielded unit, and the shoot first only gives you a +1, and then it lets you do an action. But I decided to play this card because it does do two things. It gives my it exhausts an enemy unit, and then it also lets me give pairs this off really well with the 3 drops or less to be able to give it a shield token. Granted, you don't want to give a shield token to the Super Laser Technician because you're trying to get it to be defeated, but you can give this to cards like Viper Probe Droid, so it can clear a 3 unit really inexpensively. So that's always really nice too against aggro. And then the Waylay is really good because it bounces basically in units that is a non leader unit. So you can like bounce back cards. The best usage of this is when your opponent equips in an upgrade to one of your guys or has an experience token. Namely, it's better to bounce a unit that has an upgrade that is not an experience token, or a shield token that was granted by itself. You want to bounce units that make sure that this is a 1-for-1, where you're trading with the upgrade that they played from their hand, essentially. And then shoot first. I play shoot first because I want to be able to attack with a unit, again a +1, but it's not important to play this guy. I'm thinking about side decking this card for BO3. I haven't been to a locals yet that does BO3 yet, but yeah, if it's a BO3 locals, I would probably side this for matchups where I'm playing against aggro, Sabine. But if I'm not playing against Sabine or aggro, I just don't want to I always end up putting this in my resource at the end of the day. Great card. No good to be dead. I There's so many instances where this card is good, especially against the Boba matchup. If you're playing against the Boba matchup and they deploy their unit, you can play this card on their Boba, and then they can't attack with Boba for 2 turns. So Boba can't get the ability of being able to ready 2 resources. So definitely hold this card for the Boba deployment or just any leader that comes out and tries to get value when it comes out. So yeah, this is really good against that. Also really good against like big threats. So if they played a big threat that you can't deal with, you can just no good to me dead, and it's basically as if you defeated the unit, except it just comes back, which is the tough part. But you don't need to worry. Against blue, you're going to be rushing them down anyways. So the idea is that if you exhaust your unit for 2 turns on their deploy turn and also their next turn, assuming it goes into ready, then you can just no good to me dead it, and then it can't attack for like a whole turn, which is really important. A non-interactive card that you want to have in Boba is the resupply, because it is able to put this into the ready itself. Not ready itself, but it puts this into the resource so that you can play Boba earlier. Other than that, I don't use the second copy or the third copy in the game because I just wanted to play Boba, and after that, I want to start playing my units as quickly as possible. Best card in the deck, in my opinion, is Surprise Strike. It allows your deck to be aggressive, so it also lets you trade favorably as well into strong health units. So I was using this card with the Super Laser Technician to deal with Yoda, so that I can pair it off and kill Yoda. That's kind of the idea behind Surprise Attack. The other element of Surprise Attack is that it makes your deck more aggressive, so that you can beat the blue matchup, so the Vigilant matchup. And because this card allows you to do 3 extra damage, it basically seals the game in certain cases. So like I said before, Boba is one of those leaders that allows you to be either aggressive against the control decks, mid range against the aggro decks, and then of course against mid range, it's going to be difficult because the mirror match is going to be really difficult. It comes down to whether or not you realize what the action economy is at the current moment, and if your action economy is below, you're most likely going to lose that game because you also want to play on curve as well. Because the idea is that your enemy base is going to be at 25 when you're playing the mirror match, and because of that, you want to be able to take out your you want to be able to control the board using all your shieldy units, but at the same time you're playing the value game as well. So it really depends on the situation. If you are able to deploy a big unit, such as Fett's Fire Spray, then you want to ignore the other space units because the Fett's Fire Spray has 6 health, so they don't want to keep taking 6 health to their base. So the idea is to use your Fett Fire Spray to go after the enemy base so that their base gets lower. So they're forced to like trade their space units into the Fett's Fire Spray, and that's assuming that they have units that can't clear your Fett's Fire Spray. If you have a Fett's Fire Spray and then they have a space unit that's really large in the mirror match, for example, then you obviously don't want to trade your Fett's Fire Spray into the larger unit, so you want to go straight to the base anyway. So, yeah, the mid range matchup or the mirror match for Boba is rather difficult. So it really depends on how you navigate the situation. You can either go for value or you can go for base damage. So it just really depends on the situation. There is a rule that I can like pretty much teach you guys about Boba, because what Boba can do in the mirror match means that depends on your hand, of course, but it mostly depends on whether or not you could win the game. So you want to count the amount of damage you have on board, and if you could have lethal within a certain amount of turns, that's going to be your game plan against Boba. So also keep the no get to me dead for the leader deployment so that you could prevent it from completing an attack. And then, yeah, of course, you're playing the Overwhelming Barrage. It's a great mid-range card. It really destroys aggro if you're able to resolve it. Although, against aggro, I do sometimes resource it if I don't have my units. So, this is one of the cards you needed to pair off with another unit. So, it just depends on the situation, as I said. If your units are all kind of destroyed, I would resource this card. If your units are still on board or you actually played on curve, then this card is amazing against the matchup. So to recap, against aggro, you are heavily favored against Sabine, and you're also heavily favored against Leia. Those are the two aggro decks of the format as we are currently playing. So because those two decks are aggro, and also kind of represented into the metagame, Boba has a good matchup against it. So you don't really have to worry, but don't go for face against Leia or Sabine. You want to be able to trade with their unit, and as you get to the later games, they start losing because you just play your big units like Fett's Fire Spray and Darth Vader and stuff like that. But of course, if you open up with Vader, you want to be able to put him in your resource right away because you won't be needing him until way later, anyways. So charge or put Vader into your resource and put like 97 Legion in your resource, as well as sometimes the Barrage as well against aggro matchups. Against the mid-range decks like Boba, you're going to need to play again. It's a combination of being able to play between mid-range and aggro against. I mean, sorry, control and aggro against Boba, because the idea against Boba is that sometimes they open up their control cards, and then if they open up their control cards, then you want to go aggro. If they open up, because you're playing Viper Probe Droids, right? So you know what they have in their hand at the all time. I mean, when you do deploy this guy, so if you know what the cards are in their hand because of Viper Probe Droid, then what Boba's going to do is you're going to fix your game plan afterwards. So mid range, you play mid range if they're going aggro. So if you notice that they're like playing little small units, then you want to play your Boba right here to clear those units, or you want to deploy your leader as quickly as possible. It's basically a race to who can play the leader first. If they play a unit out there, like Crafty Smuggler, for example, then you want to play your Super Laser Technician to trade into the shield so that you have the 4. On turn 3, you can play your Boba and then start doing some damage. So that's kind of how you want to behave. You definitely want to open up your ramp cards against the mirror match because you want to be able to play your Boba first, essentially. Against control, it's really simple against control. All you have to do is go aggro. Because late games you're going to lose the game because they're going to play their Luke Skywalkers, they're going to play their Yodas that are equipped with Jedi lightsabers, and they're going to play Redemption, all the restore units. So Boba typically has a really bad control matchup. So to beat the control matchup, you have to play aggressively so that they can't get to their 6 curve. Since most of the control decks in Star Wars in set 1 don't really ramp, and because they don't really ramp, that means that you can aggro them down before they can kill you with their big units. I hope all my rambling kind of helped. It was kind of a lot to talk about because I'm talking about like complex action theory in a game where I just started playing. So over the course of time, as I get better at this game, I should be able to explain action economy better for each leader, because it depends on how far you are in the action. And then I also talked about card value trading, where you're basically not trading your unit, but your unit still survives the attack. And then there's also the aggressive element, where if you can do face damage, you're putting your opponent in a difficult spot, because unlike other card games, life is a resource, and because life is a resource, it makes you behave a certain way if you have a certain amount of health against certain units or certain leaders. But yeah, that was my deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, so if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button, like, make sure that you support my channel so that I could help you guys out more in the future. All right, I'll peace out, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next deck profile. Peace.